My name is Rashima Amanda, and I'm 34 years old. In finance, you learn that trust isn't a feeling, it's a ledger. Debits and credits, inputs and outcomes. People don't collapse suddenly. Patterns do. They drift until the numbers don't reconcile anymore. That's when you stop asking how you feel and start asking what you know. For 8 years, I've been with Liam Carter. Handsome in photographs, persuasive in rooms, slippery in arguments. He has 4 college friends who orbit him like moons around a planet that doesn't admit it's burning out: Blake, Ryan, Noah, and Derek. Their group chat tone is a mix of inside jokes and performative loyalty, men who still call each other boys as if adolescence were an achievement. I tolerated them the way I tolerate bad coffee at good meetings, something you swallow so business can continue. The first flicker wasn't even his, it was a receipt. We have one joint credit card for groceries, utilities, things couples buy when they behave like a team. Somewhere in late spring, the charges shifted. A membership at a gym across town. The trainers there get me, he said. A set of luggage I hadn't seen before. Dinner at places that require valet and attitude. I noticed. I always notice. But I also knew the quickest way to make a liar work harder is to ask him to tell the truth. So I didn't. I logged. I waited. I watched. 2 months later, Liam stood in our kitchen and said, casual as a weather report, "Blake's bachelor party, Miami, 3 nights. I'll be back Sunday." He offered details no one asked for, the way children do when they insist the broken vase fell on its own. The itinerary downloadable in my head: rooftop bar, boat day, obligatory steakhouse, a hotel I recognized because I'd booked it once for a client event. He smiled like he was doing me a favor by informing me. I smiled back, like he'd just presented a quarterly forecast I already knew was fraudulent. "Have fun," I said, rinsing a glass I wasn't done using. "Be safe." "Don't worry about me," he said, and kissed my hair instead of my mouth. The week before his trip, he joined that new gym across town. Different vibe, he told me, and started leaving earlier in the mornings, the kind of early that requires cologne. He angled his phone away from me when it buzzed. His laughter shifted registers depending on who was texting. He accused me of being quiet lately, and I didn't have the heart to tell him that the quiet wasn't distance. It was data. The Thursday he left, I helped him stack his shiny new suitcases near the door like trophy blocks. He hugged me, polite, performative, and his eyes slid somewhere past my shoulder. The elevator doors closed on his reflection, and the condo fell into that peculiar hush cities get when they pretend to be kind. It's funny how quickly peace can sound like warning. I made tea, opened my laptop, and cleared a few spreadsheets from my inbox. Numbers are the only place I can breathe when people start to lie. I told myself I'd read until the kettle cooled, then shower, then maybe text my sister Jessica, older by 2 years, a lawyer whose voice can slice a room into truth. The direct message arrived at 2:11 p.m. from an account with no posts, no followers, just a gray circle where a person should be. "You don't know me. I'm sorry to do it like this, but you should see this." A screenshot loaded in segments like a curtain lifting in slow motion. At the top, Miami Mayhem. Members: Blake, Ryan, Noah, Derek, and in the preview line, a name that didn't belong to anyone I'd ever met. Melissa, Liam's ex-girlfriend from college, the one he had described as a phase, the one whose Instagram still shadow-liked his posts from time to time like a moth that didn't understand glass. I knew the name because everyone knows the names they pretend not to hear. The chat rolled on. Blake, is the dude finally out? Is she free? Noah, tell her to kill location services this time. Ryan, legendary weekend incoming. Derek, Melissa says he landed early. Room's ready. Then Liam appeared, his name small and smug. Liam, she's at work. Wheels up in an hour. Don't be messy. There was a second screenshot, a hotel confirmation. The same property he'd claimed the guys were staying at for Blake. Same dates. Different reservation name. Hart/Carter, honeymoon suite. Honeymoon. The anonymous account pinged again. I'm Avery. I'm Noah's girlfriend. They're not in Miami. They took a cheap flight to Vegas this morning. Your boyfriend isn't with them. He booked Miami with her. I found this on Noah's iPad. He doesn't know I know. Do what you need to do. I stared at the message long enough for the kettle to scream itself hoarse and settle. My hand didn't shake. My stomach didn't lurch. The hurt that should have swarmed me like bees just didn't. It's not that I didn't love him. It's that I had already amortized the risk. The callus had formed where affection used to be soft. I typed back, "Thank you, Avery. Say nothing to him. Enjoy your day." 3 bubbles popped up, disappeared. Then, "Are you okay?" I didn't answer. Instead, I screenshotted everything and saved it to a fresh folder on my desktop. I named it what I name any project whose inputs are lies and whose outputs need to be clean. Draft 0. Naming things is a way of breathing before you dive. I walked to the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed we'd bought after a fight about the last one. The afternoon light made everything look softer than it was. His dresser was ajar, a tie draped like a careless sentence. On the nightstand, a coaster ringed with the ghost of last night's drink. Living with someone is the art of ignoring their residue. The phone buzzed. "Jessica." "You home?" she asked. No hello. "Yes." "You sound like numbers." "Because I am." "Say it." "He's in Miami with Melissa Hart, or he wants the world to think she's my replacement and his friends are his alibi. There's a chat. There's a reservation. There's an idiot's fingerprint on every lie." Silence, but not the kind that abandons you. Jessica's silences are surgical. "Do you want the lawyer answer or the sister answer?" she asked. "Both." "Both," I said. "Lawyer. Don't confront. Not yet. Preserve everything. Screenshots, metadata, timestamps. Lock down your half of anything joint. Freeze lines of credit. Put a hold on the HELOC. Sister, I'll be there in 20. Don't break anything we'll need later." I almost laughed. "I won't." "Rish?" "I'm proud of you for not crying." "I will," I said, "when the math is done." After I hung up, I walked to the window and watched the street tilt toward evening. People with tote bags, people with secrets. A cyclist ran the light and grinned at his own survival. Somewhere in another city dressed as this one, Liam was rehearsing a story he thought would work. Traffic noise rose, paused, exhaled. I opened the screenshots again, not because I doubted them, but because repetition is proof's lullaby. Honeymoon suite. The flamboyance of it thrilled him. That much I understood. Men like Liam believe audacity is the same as power. They mistake confident for competent. They spell love like a marketing brief. "Legendary weekend," his friend had written, and I wondered which one would be the first to pretend they'd had reservations all along. The strange thing about clarity is that it makes you kind. The anger I thought would scorch me never arrived. In its place came a precise, almost tender focus. I would not scream. I would not plead. I would not make a scene that gave him a story to tell. I would give him silence and consequences. My laptop chimed with an email from the bank. A fraud alert on our joint card. A charge from the hotel bar. 2 from the spa. The numbers lined up like admissions. I forwarded the screenshots to a secure folder and printed hard copies for a file I hadn't labeled yet. Habit had me check the time of the flight he said he was on versus the flight he'd actually taken. The Vegas departure was 8:05 a.m. He'd texted me at 8:12, a photo of a wing and a sky he didn't deserve. I saved that too. The front door opened at 4:38 p.m., and my breath leapt before my mind reproached it. But it was only the courier dropping a package on the mat. My heart resented the waste of the gesture. When Jessica arrived, she didn't hug me immediately. She scanned the room the way she scans the first page of a contract, then nodded. Hug later, plan first. We sat side by side at the table, like we had the night our mother taught us to balance a checkbook with a bowl of grapes between us. "Show me," she said. I did. Her mouth made no judgments, her eyes wrote them all. When she finally looked up, her voice was exactly as calm as mine felt. "This is good," she said. "This is clean." "He'll say I'm controlling." "He always does." "He'll say I never trusted him." "You trusted him," she said. "You just also trusted your eyes." We talked for an hour, then 2. Not once did we use the word revenge. Revenge is a stage show. This was something quieter, more enduring. She left me with the first page of a checklist, and I left her with my promise to sleep. When she closed the door behind her, the condo fell silent again, but this time it felt like a held note instead of a void. I stood in the doorway of my bedroom and stared at the suitcases he hadn't taken out because he'd bought new ones with the card we shared. People leave clues. They also leave me the means to erase them. I returned to my desk and opened a new folder. I stared at the blinking cursor and let it name itself. Project Severance. The tea had gone cold. I drank it anyway. The night gathered itself at the windows. My phone lay face up, finally honest. Somewhere above a coastline that was never ours, a man who underestimated me was about to learn what it feels like to be an entry in the liability column. My heartbeat was steady. It didn't sound like heartbreak. It sounded like the start of an audit. By the next morning, I wasn't heartbroken. I was operational. Some people drown in betrayal. I dissect it. I woke before dawn, brewed coffee, and opened my laptop like a surgeon unwrapping her instruments. The file marked Project Severance waited on the desktop. Small, harmless looking, but heavy with quiet intent. Inside were folders labeled financials, contacts, assets, evidence. Each one was a pulse check on the life I'd built with a man who thought love was a kind of camouflage. I called my bank at exactly 8 a.m. Good morning. This is Rashima Amanda. I need to report potential unauthorized charges on my joint credit account. My tone was polite, precise, steady. The kind of voice that never raises suspicion until it's too late. Within 20 minutes, the card was frozen. Liam's access was gone. Every drink, every spa visit, every room service charge he'd make for the rest of that trip would decline mid-swipe, right there in the honeymoon suite. I didn't smile. I calculated. Next, our joint checking and savings. I withdrew exactly half, down to the cent, and moved it to an account under my name only. Then I froze the home equity line of credit he'd been using for renovations. He would wake up tomorrow to find his world inconvenient. By the end of the week, he would find it unlivable. At 9:12 a.m., I made my second call. Rick Mendez, I said when he answered, his voice rough with sleep. Corporate compliance consultant, right? I need you for something personal. Rick had done discreet background checks for my firm, the kind that make HR feel moral while everyone else pretends not to know. He whistled softly. What's the brief? I gave him names. Liam Carter, location Miami, companion Melissa Hart, hotel South Beach, likely under both names. I need photos, confirmation of stay, and any records of his reservations. He didn't ask why. Timeline? Before Sunday night. You're paying rush rates. I'll pay you triple, I said and hung up. By afternoon, I drafted an email to my sister Jessica, marked private. Subject, legal groundwork. Jess, he forged a story. I'm checking if he forged anything else. I'm locking down accounts, freezing joint lines, gathering documentation. When this becomes legal, I want to be surgical, not emotional. R. Her reply came 6 minutes later. Perfect. Keep every receipt. I'll prepare drafts for separation filings. Quiet ones, dated after his return. We'll let him incriminate himself first. My sister was my equal in discipline, just trained in a different form of weaponry. That evening, the PI called. Got your guy, he said, tone dry. Liam Carter, 35, checking into the Meridian South Beach with Melissa Hart, 32, fitness influencer / personal trainer. I got photos. Clear faces. Honeymoon suite. Ocean view. They used your joint card for the deposit. He sent the pictures through an encrypted link. There they were. Liam's hand on Melissa's waist, his grin too big for the truth it tried to hide. The same hand that once traced the back of my neck now rested easily on someone else's lie. I studied the image the way analysts study data, not for pain, but for proof. Good work, I told Rick. Want me to dig into her? Not yet, I said. The problem isn't her. It's the man who thinks he's clever. By Saturday morning, Project Severance had evolved into something cleaner. Jessica came over with coffee and 2 folders. Divorce draft, she said, sliding the first toward me. Asset freeze plan, the second. You move fast, I said. She sipped her drink. You think fast. I just keep up. We reviewed everything like a case. I wasn't the wounded girlfriend anymore. I was a client preparing to exit a failing partnership. The terms were emotional, only in theory. Jessica flipped to the next page. He'll spin it. Men like him always do. He'll say you're controlling. He'll say you don't trust him. He'll play victim until the script runs out. I'm fine letting him audition, I said. She smirked. Good, because I'm already filing an inquiry with a handwriting specialist. You'll need it when we move on the fraud angle. Fraud? She looked up. You haven't checked the home files lately, have you? I frowned. No. Then do it. Something tells me Liam didn't stop at lies. By Sunday morning, my phone pinged with a transfer alert. Liam had tried to move $5,000 from our joint checking. The attempt failed. His text arrived 5 minutes later. Hey babe, weird issue with the card. Can you check? I stared at the message until it blurred. He still thought I was the same woman he'd underestimated, the one who would panic, call the bank, fix it for him. I typed back, "Must be a glitch. I'll look into it Monday." He replied with a heart emoji. I didn't open it. At noon, I did what Jessica said. I went to the home office, the neat, sterile room we use for bills and contracts. A faint scent of his cologne lingered on the chair. I started from the top drawer, file by file. Tax records, vehicle titles, mortgage documents. Then, at the back of the cabinet, tucked inside an old folder labeled Renovation Permits, I found it. A business loan agreement. $200,000. Signed 6 months ago. Borrower, Thomas Carter, Liam's father. Co-signer, Rishima, Amanda Carter. My stomach went still. My hands didn't tremble. They just cooled, like a wire losing current. The signature at the bottom, my name, was perfect. Too perfect. Because it wasn't mine. Jessica had been right. He hadn't just cheated. He'd forged me. I scanned the document, sent it to Jessica with a single line. "Found the weapon," she called instantly. "You're sure it's a forgery?" "I never signed a loan, and he used our condo as collateral." "Okay," she said, her tone flattening into pure calculation. "This changes everything. We're no longer talking about betrayal. This is criminal. Keep the document safe. Don't confront him. Let him come home thinking you know nothing." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. Understood. "Tomorrow morning, meet me at Marcus's office." Marcus Thorne, her firm's senior partner. I'd seen him in passing before, a man whose reputation was built on making powerful people nervous. "Marcus will handle the filing," Jessica said. "And when Liam lands, you'll already be holding the detonator." That night, I watched the camera feed from my phone, the ones I'd installed above the living room and the front door. The condo sat dark, motionless, waiting for the storm to return. I replayed the footage of myself placing the cameras. Each quiet movement looked like ritual. Somewhere over the Atlantic, Liam was probably asleep beside Melissa, confident the world was still his to manipulate. He didn't know the house he'd left behind had learned how to breathe without him. At 11:57 p.m., I opened Project Severance one last time before bed. Update 1, Information and Containment. Bank accounts secured. Joint cards frozen. Home equity line locked. Proof of affair confirmed via photos. Fraudulent loan discovered. Legal counsel initiated. Status active. I sat back in my chair and let the silence fill the room. There was no thrill in this victory, only clarity. People think betrayal burns, but in truth, it cools you. It carves you into something still and sharp, like glass. Tomorrow, the storm would land, in luggage he didn't deserve to unpack. And I would be waiting, calm as evidence. When you catch someone lying, the hardest part isn't what they did, it's realizing how long they've practiced. Liam's entire life had been a rehearsal for pretending. That realization didn't sting, it steadied me. The next morning, I walked into Marcus Thorne's office with Jessica at my side. Marcus looked exactly like a man who enjoyed dismantling people for a living. Compact, sharp-eyed, expressionless, except for a smirk that didn't need permission to appear. Jessica placed the forged document on his desk. Business loan, $200,000, collateralized with her condo. Signatures fake. Marcus lifted the page, tilted it under the light, and nodded slowly. "Good forgery," he said, "but not good enough. Your boyfriend didn't just cross a moral line, he crossed a federal one." He looked at me. "How do you want to play this?" "I don't want chaos," I said. "I want control." He leaned back, approving. "Then we'll do this quietly. Start by freezing any assets his name touches. Once he lands, we'll serve papers that end both the relationship and the fraud in one move." Jessica's voice was colder. "We'll make sure he has no time to spin a story. He comes home to a wall, not a conversation." That afternoon, I started building that wall. Step 1, digital containment. I changed every password, banking, utilities, even the smart lock on the front door. His key fob would blink red the moment he tried to come home. Step 2, surveillance. I adjusted the camera angles so that the living room framed the entrance perfectly. The lens didn't judge, it just remembered. Step 3, silence. I didn't text him. I didn't call. I wanted him to land in uncertainty, not expectation. Rick, the private investigator, sent me one last message before I shut everything down. He and the girl checked out early. Flight home tonight. Looks tense. No smiles. I stared at that last sentence longer than I should have. No smiles. Maybe she'd already seen a version of him I once mistook for charm. By late afternoon, the legal groundwork was complete. Marcus's paralegal handed me a folder thick enough to hurt someone. Divorce petition. Asset protection filing. Civil complaint draft. Eviction notice template. He won't see any of it coming. I slipped the forged loan copy into the front pocket. Good, I said. Jessica looked at me. You okay? Define okay, she sighed. Not broken. I'm functional, I said. That's better. At 5 p.m., I sent Liam one text. Just one. Hey, hope you landed safely. Let me know when you're back so we can talk. It was bait disguised as care. I knew his kind of arrogance. He'd interpret it as weakness. His reply came 30 minutes later. Sure, babe. Trip was great. Can't wait to see you. The irony was so thick, it almost made me laugh. Almost. Sunday evening arrived humid and deliberate. The sky outside the condo pressed down like a held breath. I ordered dinner, I didn't eat, and waited. The cameras were live, the files were printed, the documents were ready. I'd already arranged for the process server to arrive 5 minutes after Liam did. Timing was everything. At 7:19 p.m., my phone vibrated. Motion detected, front door. I opened the live feed. Liam stood there, tanned, smug, dragging his luggage with one hand, phone in the other. He swiped his key fob at the building entrance. Red light. Again. Red. His expression twitched. He buzzed the concierge, irritation edging his voice. This is Liam Carter, Unit 121. My key isn't working. The concierge, polite but unmoved, replied, I'm sorry, sir. Access has been deactivated at the request of the primary resident. He blinked, confused. That's ridiculous. My girlfriend lives here. I understand, sir. However, I've been instructed not to override the system. There's a gentleman here who needs to speak with you. And right then, the process server stepped into frame. A large man in a dark suit holding a thick envelope. Mr. Liam Carter? Yeah? You've been served. Liam's confusion sharpened into anger. What the hell is this? The man didn't answer. He just dropped the envelope at Liam's feet and walked off. Liam hesitated, looked around, then bent to pick it up. The camera caught everything. His posture, his disbelief. The exact moment realization cracked his face. He stormed inside, luggage thudding against the floor. I switched to the living room feed. He tore open the envelope, scanning page after page, divorce petition, eviction notice, account freezes. His face flushed red. Then he noticed the smaller envelope taped to the inside of the door. My handwriting, his name. He ripped it open. Inside was a copy of the forged loan document. My name circled in red ink. Above it, one handwritten line. I know everything. Your move. He froze. The sound that escaped him wasn't rage. It was panic, soft and breathless. He pulled out his phone and called me. I let it ring twice before answering. Rish, he said, voice cracking. What the hell is this? You can't... I can, I said quietly. You locked me out of my own home. Is it yours? I asked. Or is it the bank's? Because last I checked, you used our condo as collateral for your father's failing business. There was silence on the line, the kind that doesn't last long because truth burns oxygen. How did you find out? He stammered. It doesn't matter, I said. You forged my signature, you defrauded a lender, and you lied, repeatedly. So, you'll sign an uncontested separation agreement, waive all claims to my assets, and walk away with nothing but your personal belongings. You can't just... I can. And if you don't, I'll file a criminal complaint for bank fraud first thing tomorrow morning. You and your father can share the same courtroom. His voice broke. Rish, please, don't do this. I made a mistake. No, Liam, you made a series of choices. He whispered something, my name maybe, but I ended the call. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was complete. Later, Jessica texted. He called Marcus's office, tried to argue for time. Marcus said, we don't negotiate with felons. I smiled, for the first time in days. By midnight, Liam had gone silent. The cameras showed him pacing, throwing papers, finally sitting on the couch in the dark, his face buried in his hands. I saved the footage. It wasn't cruelty, it was record-keeping. Tomorrow would bring his father's frantic calls, his lawyer's threats, his desperate messages. I was ready for all of it. Because revenge, I realized, isn't about rage, it's about precision. And I was born to balance ledgers. The storm had landed exactly where I aimed it. But what I didn't know, not yet, was that the fallout would reach further than I'd planned. Because when you take apart someone's life, you never know which pieces will try to take you with them. By the time Liam's father called, the sky outside had already turned the color of bruised metal. The storm I'd set in motion had begun to echo back. Rishima, Thomas Carter's voice trembled through the speaker, half outrage, half fear. There's been a misunderstanding. No, I said calmly. There's been a forgery. Liam didn't mean... Intent is irrelevant, I interrupted. He used my property as collateral without my consent. That's fraud, Mr. Carter. He tried a tone I recognized from every man who'd ever underestimated me, paternal condescension wrapped in apology. You wouldn't ruin him over a paperwork mistake. He loves you. I let the silence stretch until he filled it. You've already talked to a lawyer, haven't you? He asked. Yes, I said, 2, actually. Then I hung up. The next 24 hours unfolded like choreography. Every call, every panic, every failed attempt to regain control, anticipated, accounted for, logged. Liam's messages multiplied. Can we please talk in person? You're overreacting. You're destroying everything for nothing. You were supposed to love me, not litigate me. Each text was a case study in deflection. Each one made me surer that I'd never been talking to a man, only a mask. Jessica reviewed his messages and smirked. Classic manipulation cycle. Denial, guilt, self-victimization. He's moving through it like clockwork. And when the cycle ends, I asked. She sipped her coffee. He begs, or he breaks. At 3 p.m., Marcus called. Their lawyer caved, he said. They're ready to sign. Liam forfeits all claims to shared assets. No alimony, no equity, no challenge to ownership of the condo. In exchange, you withdraw the criminal complaint before filing. I paused. His father? Panicking, Marcus replied. I hinted at a handwriting analysis and federal implications. He went pale. You should expect an apology soon, the expensive kind. Good, I said. Send the documents. That night, I rewatched the security footage. Not to gloat, to study. The scene replayed like a morality play with bad actors. Liam pacing the living room, talking to himself, alternating between anger and pleading. He slammed a door, then apologized to the air. I muted the sound and watched his body language instead, the flailing gestures, the slumped shoulders. It wasn't guilt that broke him. It was exposure. The man who once prided himself on control had none left. At 11:40 p.m., the camera caught him sitting on the couch, staring at his phone. A long exhale. Then he spoke softly into the dark. You were supposed to save me. He wasn't talking to me. He was talking to himself, to the idea of the woman who used to believe him. That woman no longer existed. Monday morning, the final meeting. We met at Marcus's firm downtown. Sterile glass, chrome, air-conditioned justice. Liam arrived with his father and their attorney, Mr. Sheridan, a man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. He didn't look at me when he walked in. The swagger that once carried him through boardrooms had collapsed into something small. Melissa wasn't there. Of course she wasn't. Marcus slid the agreement across the table. Sign where indicated. Liam skimmed the pages, lips trembling. This is insane. You're taking everything. Marcus corrected him. She's keeping what was already hers. Thomas muttered. Liam, sign it. I can't just... You can, I said quietly, meeting his eyes. Or I file the fraud complaint this afternoon. You know how the state handles financial crimes, right? No bail until arraignment. No business license renewal. No job offers once it's public record. The pen shook in his hand. The scratch of ink sounded louder than any apology. When it was done, he slid the papers back. His signature looked like surrender. Jessica gathered the files neatly. We're done here. Liam opened his mouth, but I stood before he could speak. You don't get to explain this, I said. You get to live with it. He looked up, eyes red. Was any of it real for you? I smiled faintly, real enough to learn from. Then I walked out. Outside, the city was noisy and bright. People moved in waves, their conversations carrying on like nothing had shifted in the world, but mine had. When I reached the corner, Jessica caught up. You okay? Better than I should be, I said. That's because you didn't lose. You reclaimed. I nodded. But it doesn't feel like winning. It feels like finishing. She put a hand on my shoulder. That's all healing ever is. By the end of the week, the story had spread. Melissa vanished, deleted her socials, quit her job at the gym. Blake, Ryan, and the others distanced themselves, pretending they had no idea. Karen and Emily, the only ones with a conscience, texted me apologies I didn't need. And Liam? He sold his car, moved back in with his father, and started working remote contracts for half his old rate. The man who once measured success and attention now lived unseen. One evening, I returned home from work, the condo quiet and orderly again. The cameras were still on, but I rarely checked them now. I made tea, opened my laptop, and renamed the old folder one last time. From Project Severance to Project Closure. I hovered over the archive button, but didn't press it yet. Not because I needed the evidence, but because erasing it felt too final. Instead, I minimized the window and stood at the balcony. The air smelled like rain. I thought of something Jessica said. Revenge ends when you stop needing to be understood. She was right. I didn't need Liam to understand what he'd lost. He'd already learned the only lesson that mattered, that deceit carries compound interest, and I always collect. The phone buzzed once, an unknown number. I let it ring out, then silence again. For the first time in months, it wasn't the silence of suspicion. It was peace, deliberate, earned, and completely my own. It's been a year since the day I ended everything. A year since Liam Carter lost his house, his reputation, and his illusions of control. And a year since I stopped mistaking endurance for love. The quiet now isn't empty. It's intentional. The condo feels larger these days, not because I removed anything, but because I stopped shrinking myself to fit someone else's comfort. The cameras are gone. The locks are new. The kitchen doesn't smell like his cologne or his favorite takeout anymore. It smells like citrus and coffee. Clean beginnings. I've built a new routine. Sunrise walks, meetings at the firm, dinners with Jessica where we talk about anything except him. She still jokes that she's going to frame the forgery document as modern art. Exhibit A. The anatomy of arrogance. Some nights I almost laugh. Almost. Liam never recovered. His father's company collapsed 6 months after the scandal. When the fraud surfaced internally, courtesy of Marcus's anonymous compliance tip. Thomas Carter was forced into early retirement, and the firm dissolved under debt. Liam took a remote consulting job. Quiet, unremarkable. His friends drifted, some out of guilt, most out of self-preservation. Melissa vanished completely. Word through the grapevine said she'd left for Texas after an investor, one of Liam's old contacts, backed out on her fitness brand launch the moment the scandal broke. The few times Liam tried to reach out, an email here, a closure text there, I ignored them. The final one read, "I hope one day you can forgive me." I didn't reply, not out of bitterness, out of clarity. Forgiveness isn't the same as access. A few weeks ago, I attended a charity gala downtown, the kind of event where everyone wears sincerity like cologne and pretends to care about causes they can't spell. My firm sponsored it. Jessica insisted I come. I was mid-conversation with a client when she froze. "Behind you," she whispered. I turned. Liam stood across the ballroom. He was thinner. The tan was gone. His posture, once confident to the point of arrogance, had caved inward, like a building stripped of its foundation. He was there with his mother, her smile tight and brittle, both of them clinging to relevance like it might keep them afloat. Our eyes met for a moment. He didn't smile. Neither did I. The band started playing an old jazz number we'd once danced to at a wedding, and the irony landed like a quiet applause only I could hear. He looked away first. That, more than anything, felt like the real victory. When I got home that night, I poured a glass of wine and opened the balcony door. The city stretched below, lights blinking like tiny heartbeats. I thought about how everyone loves the story of revenge until it's over. They expect fireworks. They expect the final confrontation, the shouted truth, the slammed door. But that's not what justice looks like. Justice is quieter. It's paperwork and patience. It's watching the person who wronged you build their own prison, brick by brick, and knowing you don't have to lift a single stone. I learned that the hard way, and I learned it well. The following week, Jessica and I met for lunch. She looked at me across the table, sunlight spilling over her like an interrogation lamp. "You know," she said, "I never told you how proud I am of how you handled it." "I didn't handle it," I said. "I ended it." "That's handling it," she replied. I smiled faintly. "I think I finally understand what you meant that night." "Which part?" "When you said revenge ends when you stop needing to be understood." She raised her glass. And you were right. I don't care if he ever understands." Jessica's smile softened. "Then you've won twice." After lunch, I walked through the city. No destination, just movement. The same streets where I once hurried home to him now felt like mine alone. I passed couples holding hands, people arguing, laughing, living. I wasn't jealous, I wasn't nostalgic. I was done. There's freedom in not wanting someone back, not out of pride, but out of peace. Back home, I opened my laptop one final time. The folder still sat there, quietly waiting. Project closure. I opened it, scrolled through every screenshot, every photo, every legal document. Not with anger, but gratitude. Every line of proof had been a stepping stone out of delusion. Every piece of evidence had led me back to myself. I selected the entire folder. My finger hovered over delete. For a moment, I hesitated, not because I needed it, but because erasing it felt symbolic, like sealing a wound that no longer hurt. Then I pressed delete. The files disappeared with a soft chime. No fire, no drama, just the sound of an ending. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Revenge is not the opposite of love. Indifference is. And indifference takes time, discipline, and a very particular kind of courage. The courage to stop caring whether they ever suffer. Because real power isn't in making them hurt. It's in building a life so calm, so untouchable, that they no longer exist in it at all. I closed my laptop, stepped outside, and let the city wind brush through my hair. Somewhere, Liam was probably still trying to make sense of what went wrong. That was his punishment, to live inside the story I'd already outgrown. Mine was simpler, to live beyond it. I raised my glass toward the skyline. Not a toast, just acknowledgement. To the lesson, to the silence, to the freedom that follows the fire. Because in the end, revenge wasn't my story.